Hey, good morning and welcome to the Wednesday Morning Roundtable. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Stephanie Hutchinson and I'll be moderating today's discussion. Today's topic will be workforce development. We have two presenters with us today, Dr. Keiko Kimura and Kelly King. Dr. Keiko Kimura currently serves as the Vice President for Workforce Development and Partnerships at Cayuga Community College. In her role, she provides leadership and oversight for the college's workforce training programs, institutional research and assessment, and represents Cayuga in its efforts to become an effective partner in the regional workforce ecosystem. She's a member of the Workforce Board in both Cayuga-Cortland and Oswego counties, and is the chair of Oswego's Partners Roundtable Subcommittee. She has worked in education for almost 30 years, primarily in higher education, but also at the K-12 level in Japan, Chile, and the US. Her first job was to deliver newspapers in her hometown of Ontario, Canada, where she learned the value of showing up on time and getting the job done even on the snowiest of days. Keiko holds a bachelor's degree from McGill University, a master's degree from the Teachers College at Columbia University, and an education doctorate from Northern Illinois University. Kelly King has proudly served the community in Cayuga County for over 2 decades in roles ranging from assisting individuals battling drug and alcohol addiction to providing job coaching and job development to those with developmental disabilities and mental illness. Today, Kelly serves as the director of Cayuga County's Employment and Training Department, overseeing the various programs and operations for the Cayuga Works Center. Kelly regularly collaborates with the New York State Department of Labor, New York State Education, and Human Services agencies to strengthen the public workforce system and address the needs of job seekers and employers in the community. She's a Leadership Cayuga alumna, a member of the local business services team, plays a role in the Joint Advisory Committee for Cayuga Onondaga BOCES, and is the Trade Act coordinator for both Cayuga and Cortland counties. Kelly holds a bachelor's degree in psychology from Cayuga College. And with that, I will turn it over to our presenters.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Stephanie, for the kind introduction. So I know I'm scheduled to talk about the facilities efforts that the college has undertaken to support workforce development, namely the development of our Culinary Institute here in downtown Auburn, as well as the Advanced Manufacturing Institute on our Fulton campus in Oswego County, and the redevelopment of our Cornell Cooperative Extension Center on Grant Avenue. And I will certainly discuss those projects, but I also want to emphasize that these projects are more than just capital construction projects, although that is certainly those are certainly very important efforts on their own, but they're also physical representations of the college's strategic efforts under the direction of our president, Dr. Durant, to really demonstrate a community commitment to collaborative building with the goal of making a direct impact on the economic prosperity of the counties that we serve. And specifically, I would say, these opportunities represent the college's desire and commitment to work closely with public and private entities in developing the next generation of well-educated, gainfully employed, critical thinkers and citizens. So how might we do that, given the major disruptions that we've experienced over the past 2 years beginning with the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent health-related closures. Those things have certainly impacted all dimensions of our lives, from social to the economic to the educational realms. And for us in higher ed, our suppositions about higher education have certainly been turned on their heads. And so as educators and as an employer and also a strong partner with state agencies, we had and certainly continue to have this obligation to really carefully consider the recovery process and to ensure that we are planning and preparing our students, our employees, our clients to be best prepared for participating in that recovery process. So I thought I would start by sharing just a little context in terms of the state of our national workforce systems right now with some labor data that I find interesting. So we all know that 2020 is really going to be stuck in our minds as a time that really wreaked havoc on our employment, right? More than 20 million people lost their jobs. However, we now know that 2021 is considered a time of pretty strong labor market recovery. So much so that we now observe employers really experiencing severe difficulty in finding suitable candidates. The country as a whole has been adding about 550,000 jobs a month. So this sudden reversal from lows to highs has really had employers scrambling to find those candidates, compete for more workers. They offer enticements like increased wages, cash signing bonuses, and any other benefit they can think of to secure talent. And this in turn has created the most worker-friendly job market that we have seen in decades. And the workforce is certainly aware of that, right? At least 4 million people have left their work over the last 6 months of 2021, with many of them departing to find better pay, better benefits, more flexible schedules, etc. So all this to say that in the workforce development world, we are experiencing this friction, right, of what has been called the many-to-many problem. We have many unfilled jobs and millions of people separating from employment. And although many of those jobs that were lost at the height of the pandemic were considered frontline service jobs, they didn't necessarily require a formal college education, they didn't necessarily translate to high wages, there are still millions of positions that require high skills and earn high wages that employers are still struggling to fill. So what are we to do with that information? Well, as a community college, we are uniquely positioned to address that friction, to reduce it, both for the candidate or the student on one side, as well as the employer on the other side, by bridging the education to employment gap with flexible training that emphasizes skill building in short formats that lead to entry-level jobs with sustainable wages. Community colleges as a whole serve about 11 million individuals every year, and we are the only entities that have the scope and the reach to provide that job-focused training that is needed right now. And that is an unbiased opinion. So, over the years, I would say, and perhaps even under the radar, Cayuga Community College has been steadily growing our workforce development programs, providing workers with new skills, enticing job seekers with new fields through entry-level programs in tandem with local industry. We've been developing and delivering job-specific classes for local employers and even helping economic developers in their efforts to attract prospective new investment through national credentialing. Courses that we offer range, it's a huge range. We offer blueprint reading, precision measurement. We offer courses in DevOps, Kaizen, lean manufacturing, Microsoft Excel, new supervisor training. The list could, it goes on and on. Importantly, these training courses are not tied to a traditional semester or credit hours. They can be offered in formats that suit the employer or the learner, online in the evenings, over the course of 3 days or 3 months. This type of flexibility, we think, is the key to addressing what is needed now, which is essentially somewhat of a reset of our how we view post-secondary education as an all-you-can-eat model, and converting that to more of a eat it while I need it model, right? More than ever, I would say, we think that these formats and these types of trainings are exactly what is needed for the job seeker post-pandemic. Someone who may or may not have a degree, but they're looking for some way to upskill and to advance quickly. We think this approach also has broader application even beyond this group of job seekers. These delivery options are also suitable for the younger individual, someone who cannot commit to a full-time program of study, or they can't imagine committing themselves to 2 years or 4 years of study before they get a job, because they want or they need to be working, or they have a family that they need to balance responsibilities, and they need that additional training in order to make themselves marketable. So let's talk a little bit now about the capital investments that the college has made to illustrate this type of work in action. And I'll go in reverse order in terms of development, from projects that are more in the in-development phase to the ones that are completed and up and running. So I'll begin with the Cornell Cooperative Extension Center on Grant Ave. So this is a 2-story, 19,000 square foot facility that is the future home of the Workforce Development Center. The center will house the college's community education and workforce development programs and services. So those include many of the things I described earlier: career pathway entry-level programs, corporate training, apprenticeship, short-term industry training, as well as professional development programs. Exactly the kind of training that is needed for the learner of today. The facility is also scheduled to house the Cayuga Works Career Center, the services of which you're going to hear more about from Ms. King shortly. Partnered agencies here will work together to provide quality services through partnerships with Cayuga Employment and Training, New York State Department of Labor, Cayuga Onondaga BOCES, Access VR, and many more. In addition, Cayuga County's Cornell Cooperative Extension will also maintain offices here, continuing their work to strengthen New York families and communities through nutrition education, health, and the promotion of environmental and social resilience. So the key to success to this endeavor specifically is really the willingness of critical agencies to support one another in contributing to a vibrant workforce ecosystem by carefully bringing together partner resources into one facility. We can leverage the strengths of individual expertise and funding streams to collectively improve economic outcomes through collaborative career training, financial, technical literacy services, and work readiness programs. I mentioned earlier this friction between job openings and job seekers, and the college is endeavoring to address this gap by serving the job seeker or the student. By having a centralized location, we can reduce that friction for the candidate by employing the kinds of strategies we know are critical to getting people the training they need to get them the job that they're looking for. One of the high impact practices we are implementing is to blur the line between non-credit workforce and credit training, such as our certificate in substance abuse counseling certificate, our medical coding specialist training. These are the types of certifications that can serve as effective on-ramps to credit level of study in human services and in healthcare-related fields, but in and of themselves, they are also tickets to gainful employment. The friction on the employer side can also be alleviated by providing a single collaborative resource for employer services, such as recruitment, training, access to apprenticeship resources and funding, and certainly job training. All right, next I just want to spend a little time talking about the Fulton Advanced Manufacturing Institute. So for many years now, the New York State Department of Labor has listed advanced manufacturing as one of the significant industries in the central New York region. And this is evidenced certainly by the booming economic growth of companies around us today. Manufacturing certainly took a hit in the first decade of the 2000s, but with the advent of digital processing, advanced materials, new paradigms in assistive robotics, for example, we have seen the rise in production and processing in this region, and with that, a significant increase in demand for trained professionals in this field. So our approach to embarking on this project is really an exemplar of the types of relationships higher education entities really need to have with private industry. Specifically for the college, we have assembled a county-wide advanced manufacturing consortium, which is a 20-plus member group representing local employers, workforce system partners, and economic developers who are committed to making this facility a reality. The vision for this facility is not only to provide training for traditional age college students who are looking for career training in industrial and electrical technology, but the site will also serve as a space for private enterprise to house training opportunities that they need to train their incumbent workers. Contributions from our partners have included not only cash dollars to support the construction of the facility, but also extend to consultation on the design and layout of the facility itself, input on our curriculum design, particularly in our short-term training programs. I would say that the nature of this relationship has really gone beyond the sort of typical once-a-year participation on an advisory committee. The relationship is much more intrusive, and this has served us very well because we now have direct access to the kinds of information that we need to ensure that our programs are relevant and flexible. So we are receiving the benefit of advice on our curriculum. They also refer students to our programs. They refer potential trainers to be part of our teaching force. And most importantly, they tell us about the jobs that they see coming in the future and the ways in which we should be ready to prepare for that. So I'm happy to say that we will be holding a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Advanced Manufacturing Institute in early May, and we look forward to contributing to the training and upskilling of many, many individuals to enter the field of industrial and electrical technology. In another realm of workforce preparation training, we have our beautiful Culinary Institute on Grant Avenue, on Genesee Street. And this is another example of the close collaborative partnerships with private industry and public opportunities that the college has been able to secure, this time in the hospitality sector. We have a rising interest in culinary and food service management that the Finger Lakes, as we all know, is currently enjoying, combined with New York's downtown revitalization initiatives. Add to that a successful business owner who's looking to build on his legacy to support workforce training in this field of study. So to capitalize on this energy, the college was awarded $850,000 through the Downtown Revitalization Initiative, and in combination with other generous donations, we were able to build this beautiful teaching facility in downtown Auburn. The Institute also represents a step in a culinary career pathway that segues beautifully from the very strong culinary arts program at our Cayuga Onondaga BOCES. And this allows BOCES graduates to step into our 2-year AAS program with some college credit already under their belts. From there are a host of careers that are available to them that students can get trained in, from restaurant to research and development chefs, caterers, food service managers, business owners, etc. This facility also hosts cookery lessons for those who are interested in sort of brushing up on their home cooking skills. We also provide opportunities for people to learn more about the Finger Lakes farm-to-table movement and chances to get in on sampling some of the excellent county craft brewing retailers. So we will shortly be releasing our spring-summer schedule of offerings, and we look forward to seeing you there at the Institute. I advise you to act quickly, though, to register, because we have, I would say, a frequent flyer list of students who like to participate in those events, and seating is limited. So all 3 of these projects, I hope, give you a sense of the college's commitment to supporting economic vitality in the region. I will close out by saying that we believe these efforts and the strategies that we are employing are certainly sustainable for a few reasons. One is that we have applied this strategy of prizing collaboration over competition in the workforce realm by joining forces with other community colleges and other educational institutions to go after some federal and state level sponsored projects, making our applications much more competitive. We're also thrilled by a couple of big news items, one of which is the governor's recent announcement of $350 million that will be devoted to workforce development. And finally, we have learned that we will soon have funding to support credit and non-credit microcredentials through the New York State Training Assistance Program, or TAP, as it's commonly called. This is a major source of state financial assistance in higher ed for many college students. So previous to this news, microcredentials, which are defined as short, focused credentials designed to provide in-demand skills, have been exempt from state and financial assistance packages as standalones, but that has changed with respect to TAP, which is great news, particularly because Cayuga already has 22 microcredentials in areas such as education, advanced manufacturing, information technology, business and event planning, accounting. So, we look forward to promoting these short-term portable credentials with the added bonus of their being financially supported by the state. So I hope that what I've shared today has given you some idea of the college's work in the workforce development realm. Thank you so much for being an attentive audience. I think that concludes my remarks for now. Thank you. And I'll pass the mic over to Kelly King.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. Thank you, Keiko. She did an excellent job. Hard to follow, Keiko, now. No pressure. So I want to start out by introducing myself. Again, my name is Kelly King, and I started this role as the Director of Employment and Training about 6 months into the pandemic. So Employment and Training has been the department that I've worked in for going on 20 years. I was an employment and training specialist. I started in 2003 when our Career Center opened its doors. So prior to 2003, we had multiple agencies throughout the community. And employment and training was actually in the old historic post office. And various agencies came together to acquire funding to create a one-stop center and become certified as a national one-stop center. And we moved into the space at Cayuga Community College in 2003, which was the year that I started. So I always like to tell people I feel like I grew up at the Career Center because I have been there almost 20 years since the day we opened our doors, and always wanted to have more of a leadership role within the center. So I'm going on my second year as the Director of County Employment and Training, and as I said, I started 6 months into the pandemic, which was a challenge for myself to lead the team when all of a sudden we're not there, or I have staff working from home and furlough. So I think that I have a great appreciation to what employers went through with the change, because I was also going through a change myself in my career. So that's a little bit of background of how I entered into this role. When they developed the Career Center, the theory was, let's bring all of the workforce development services and agencies together under one roof to essentially provide a seamless service to the community. When we moved in, we partnered with the New York State Department of Labor on site. We had Unity Employment, Seneca Cayuga ARC, Access VR, and of course Cayuga County Employment and Training. So the idea was, when the job seeker entered in, the services were seamless and they didn't know who was providing the service. Previously, you would have someone going to Grand Ave to apply for unemployment and report their job search, but then they're coming to employment and training for workshop development or career counseling and guidance, and then to access, if you had a disability and you were going to go through Access VR, you would then have to make another stop, and that's hard enough with transportation and time management, especially for the people that we serve. So coming together as a unit really helped serve the community and the job seekers and businesses in a much more efficient way. I'm really excited about the workforce development building, as Keiko discussed and mentioned. It's kind of taking what we have and building it and making it even stronger, and this is definitely the time to focus on that, because we're rebuilding workforce and we're essentially rebuilding businesses in the community. Moving to the Workforce Development Center together, I think, is only going to enhance those opportunities for us as service providers and educators, for job seekers, for businesses. It's going to strengthen all of those things, which is our goal, is to strengthen the workforce system. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about trends in the labor market. So I have some views from before COVID to during COVID, and I don't want to say post-pandemic because we're not quite there yet. But the biggest trend that I see that isn't a surprise to anybody is the worker shortage, right? So everybody says, well, what's the biggest trend? What's the biggest complication in workforce? And it truly, locally, globally, is the shortage of workers. The number of job openings exceeds the number of hires every single day. If I look back to when I started my career, it was job seeker heavy, right? So we provide job seeker and business services. Very seldom did the business reach out to us It was the job seeker, stacks of resumes going out to the same employers. We would give the same referrals to the job seekers they were competing for very few jobs because, there weren't that many jobs and there were a lot of job seekers. Now, the employer is the seeker. So I'm seeing that as the change in trend. It's flipped. The employer is coming to us and saying, we need job seekers. Where are the job seekers? And they want the magic answer. Where are they? Bring them to me. And I wish that I could. That's my biggest challenge. Where are the job seekers, right? Where are they? So I think in the beginning, early on in the pandemic, the buzz was all about, well, they're all collecting unemployment. They're on extended benefits. Why would they look for work? Everybody's just collecting unemployment. No one will go back to work if we keep extending their unemployment insurance benefits, right? I probably said the same thing in the beginning of the pandemic. Well, I can say that extended unemployment has ended in September. We're 7 months into that being gone. And we're still facing the crisis of where are the job seekers. It's not that they're home collecting unemployment or stimulus checks. It's truly a bigger complication and challenge for job seekers. Looking at the customers that we serve through employment counseling, just through our customers coming through, I think that the reason, and I can't, my perspective is that, number one, there were a lot of early retirements with COVID, right? So, I mean, I know many people that, one in particular, she was an RN, loved her job, could retire, but chose not to, She had started to see what was going on with COVID, and she decided it was time to retire. And I think that happened across the board, whether in not sector industry specific. I think that those that could retire or were offered an early retirement exited the workforce. So we had that crisis. We had a large number of baby boomers and folks that were working that chose to not anymore and not reenter because of retirement. Second reason, I think that people voluntarily quit their jobs. So many people had to quit their jobs. Why? I mean, there were people that had been furloughed and laid off, and companies unfortunately closed and downsized. But you have people that voluntarily left their employment because of care responsibilities, pressure due to the staffing shortages. I mean, when there's staffing shortages, I saw it in my own office. It puts pressure on the people that are there, and it creates a lot of stress. And some people they couldn't continue with the pressures. Schools closed, kids were working remotely. Some parents didn't have a choice. So the biggest thing that I saw, employers didn't want to change the way they did business, but the job seeker and employees needed flexibility. So there was the friction there. I need a flexible work schedule. My employer can't offer that, maybe because of the type of industry that it is. I was fortunate enough with my situation to be home part of the time and work remote part of the time because I have had a child that was learning remotely. If you work in manufacturing on a production line, a frontline worker, you don't have those luxuries, and not everybody's lifestyle allowed for that. So I think we saw many people exiting their jobs voluntarily. That also put a hit and increased the worker shortage. So, I think that now, that quick answer of everybody's soaking up unemployment, I think now people are realizing there is a much larger picture to that, or we would see more people back to work and less openings. And as Keiko said, every day there are job openings and nobody to fill those. So every day, and I talk to different businesses and they say, well, now, okay, so we know there's a shortage. We know that people, people aren't looking for work necessarily enough that we can't capture them. What do we have to do? So what I do is, I encourage thinking outside of the box and working differently, incentivizing people to work for you. Focus on retention as well as recruitment, right? So we're so busy trying to develop our workforce that we forget about the current workforce. How do we keep them? Increase wages, bonuses, working on morale in the workplace. Those are our core fundamental things that we as employers should have been doing and do all along. We took it for granted because we had an abundant number of workers. So I think that focusing on retention and recruitment differently. We definitely have been doing more on-site recruitments and job fair activities with employers in the community that the services that they hadn't really reached out for prior. I think that is definitely helping employers with job seekers, but they really needed to think outside of the box and how to entice them and how to retain the people that they have. Definitely an ongoing challenge, but improving talent is another thing. So the services that we provide at Employment and Training, we operate under a grant, which is called the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, which is all federal funds that allows us to retrain adults, dislocated workers, and youth. So that is really our mission, is to train and retrain job seekers and community members, individuals, to essentially earn a living wage and be a qualified worker. So we have money to do that. We have money to help people go back to school, learn a new trade, earn their degree. We have federal dollars to assist with that. So developing relationships with education institutions, with the local BOCES, short-term and long-term training programs, is something that we had to kind of up our game a little bit in terms of how do we do business differently. We had to do our business differently and start developing and strengthening our relationships with our providers so we can make appropriate referrals for job seekers to be retrained. They may not be able to do the job they did before. They may be low-skilled, entry level, and they want to improve their skills to earn a better wage. Living wage is the ultimate goal for the job seeker. We also have on-the-job training dollars for employers. That's something that I really see value in that program because it's a win-win. It's a wage subsidy to the employer. So the job seeker, if there's a gap in their skills, it gives the employer an incentive to hire them because we can reimburse the employer half of the hourly wage. So you don't have a lot to lose. You might do an interview and they're lacking X, Y, and Z, but they have great soft skills. And you can't teach soft skills. We try. I mean, we have workshops that offer soft skills training and job search training and job readiness. But you can teach somebody how to operate a CNC machine. You can teach somebody how to draw blood, but you can't always teach somebody how to have the right soft skills and personality and fit. So when an employer finds that, but they don't have all the skills, the hard skills, then we can write a contract and reimburse them while they're learning. So if they're going to pay an individual $20 an hour, we can reimburse $10 an hour. So it's like, I'm getting them at half the cost, right? The job seeker got the job they might not have been able to get otherwise, and the employer has some subsidy and some offset some of their costs. That's a program that we offer that we hope to promote more because it truly is a win-win. So filling important skill gaps is huge in terms of workforce development on our end. I think that employers appreciate that more now than ever because they are trying to fill their gaps, and we're trying to help bridge that. We offer some youth programs. So I talk about the youth are the future workforce, right? And through our program, we have youth programming that allows us to hire a youth on as a Cayuga County employee. We put them on our payroll, and we place them at work sites within the community. And we have 20 to 30 work sites that we have relationships with throughout Cayuga County, ranging anywhere from labor to clerical to activities aides, nursing home settings, school settings, retail settings, to essentially offer industry exposure to youth. Industry exposure is huge. We're doing that now with our folks that we serve that are collecting public assistance that haven't been exposed necessarily to all of the industries that are out there, and the same thing with the youth. And also for people that have only worked in one environment their entire life, they don't have the exposure. So with our youth program, we can get them job experience, work experience, paid work experience, which is very helpful to them and their families. Mentoring, job shadowing. So we're really investing in our youth right now because they are our future workforce, and I think that focusing on youth and education and training is huge, a huge key to the development of workforce in the future. So I'm very proud of our youth program and where we're headed. It's really grown over the years, and especially within the last year, I would say, we've had more youth interaction and youth involvement in our programs than ever before. So that's been great news for me, and I'm happy about that. That was one of my biggest goals taking on this role, was to really improve upon and strengthen the youth program. I think that I'm in closing here, in lieu of time, I do want to say, I mentioned investment in terms of the youth. If there's one thing I can say about how to strengthen the public workforce system, is really an investment in more than just our youth, but investing in businesses, investing in services, investing in education and training. I think putting investment in all of those things is only going to strengthen the public workforce system and improve the quality of services and business within Cayuga County and across globally. Investing in what we have and strengthening that is only going to strengthen services. So in that, I would entertain any questions, and that concludes my portion for this morning. Thank you for having me. I haven't been out, and I've been presented in a couple of years, so this has been great to do an in-person event, so thank you.
Great, thank you both for all of the wonderful information. We will entertain questions at this time. I have a question to start off. Could you, perhaps this might be a question for Kelly, which industries within Cayuga County have been most acutely impacted by the worker shortage, and have any industries benefited from the whole COVID experience?
Excellent question. I would say that home care agencies have and healthcare agencies have probably faced the biggest challenge in terms of loss of staff from my experience. One agency in particular that provides home care, it was hard, from the pandemic for people to want to go into other people's homes and care for them, which is a challenging job without a pandemic going on. And I think that they probably suffered the most from my experiences. I mean, I think that businesses, I don't think it's industry sector specific. Frankly, I think that all businesses hurt from this. I think that home care, health care probably suffered maybe the most. In terms of benefit, I think that some of the restaurant hospitality type businesses, I would say, benefit in terms of learn to do their jobs differently and moving forward has allowed greater avenues for revenue with, you know, the food delivery and all of those things. I think they'll continue to do that post-pandemic, and I think that's going to bring in a greater revenue than old style way of business. So I think there's been some positives for them, but I would say healthcare probably took the biggest brunt of it.
And for Dr. Kimura, how do you generate interest? How do employers generate interest in advanced manufacturing work? Because it's not, just when you hear about it, it doesn't seem like the most glamorous position, and we know that students are really driven by jobs that seem sexy and glamorous. So what are some of the strategies employed?
Yeah, that is definitely the case. There is recognition of the challenge in terms of employers in advanced manufacturing really being able to connect with potential or prospective students because of the reputation that manufacturing has had locally. I mentioned the severe decline in jobs in the early 2000s that certainly played a role. I would say that the most success programs have had is really in starting early, really engaging with the youngest of learners, and particularly focusing on individuals who really learn well with their hands. Not every student is one that's going to make the most of an oral lecture, sitting in a seat behind a desk, 20 other students in the class. Some of them really learn much better by interacting, by applying what they're learning, by looking at, by doing some experimental work. Those are the learners that employers are targeting. An example would be the BTEC programs and early college high school programs, where colleges like Cayuga partner in industry and school districts work together to begin those forays into visiting a manufacturing floor and seeing that it's actually quite clean and requires a pretty high level of technical expertise in order to understand how to effectively work in a system like that. So those kinds of early interventions, I would say, have been the best approaches that we've seen.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the floor? Mr. Donovan?
Just as you know, workforce development, your staff and office, is currently providing a training course for the fed alcohol substance abuse, research and training course. And by the way, it's going very well. And I just want to say, when we receive our certificate, we're all invested in our community. We're going to be working with the local providers. We provide the services with our county residents. So we're talking to alcohol substance abuse need. And looking ahead, planning ahead, myself and my fellow students to enhance our career skills with the administration in your office. Look forward to providing mental health training skills and training courses similar to the one that's being offered now as a KSAT or other career opportunities in human services field. That's my question for you. Okay. Just expansion of career services, professional development.
Yeah.
Maybe mental health, for example, mental health field.
Yes, okay. So we are quite fortunate with the current administration in that the college has been the recipient of significant funding to support wellness and mental health initiatives at the college. So we anticipate that along with those resources will be a need for us to expand our services in some way. So that is an opportunity for individuals who are training within those job sectors to consider working alongside with us. Particularly, we will be targeting agencies within the community that provide similar services where we can work together to collaborate on resources. I hope that answers your question.
It does, thank you. Kelly, you mentioned the Access VCR program with the Culinary Work Center. It's off for a number of years. And I can believe that they have accompanied our local consumers for job career opportunities. It's a wonderful program. And the essentials it provides. Danny, now, is it still an active program? Is it being properly funded? I know in the past they had some funding opportunities from the state. Is there still an active program for our community residents and consumers to
Did you say Access VR?
right.
Yeah.
When it changes, is it under new?
Nope. It was formerly known as VESID, right? Vocational Educational Services for Disability. Yep. So now it's Access VR. They are still up and running and funded. They are in our office 4 out of the 5 days a week. So, yep, it's still in operation.
I can't tell you how important that program is to our local residents who face a hardship, and some challenges to sustain that employment.
Yep, I agree. Great, thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the audience? Yes. So the question was, what is the time frame for the Workforce Development Center to come online?
Well, the bid for the project itself is out currently, and the goal is really to identify or solidify a contract before the summer so that we can break ground on construction. The latest estimate is it will take at least a year for that construction to take place and for all the entities to be able to be identified and moved into the facility. That's anticipated.
Thank you.
I just have one more question. When we're talking about the labor force numbers, how does mental health from COVID play into effect? Do people leave the labor market because of that? And also, when we talk about the shortage, does that include people who decided not to re-enter the labor market, but perhaps started their own business or other revenue streams?
So in terms of the shortage, we don't track, and I know the division of, in the New York State Department of Labor, Division of Labor and Statistics, probably tracks that a little bit more. Similar to into the aspect of underemployment, it's very hard to track that. When you look at unemployment rates, if you Google that or you look at the Department of Labor's website and you see unemployment rates, that's strictly based on people, recipients of unemployment insurance. It doesn't actually touch on people that are just unemployed due to whether it be mental health, starting their own business, personal choice. That's not factored in. So when you strictly look at the numbers, that's unemployment insurance recipients. I would say mental health is definitely a factor in why some people are not working. I mean, we serve in our office a great number of people battling mental health issues, working with them to re-enter the workforce and access services to be able to battle that. So I agree, it is definitely, that definitely does impact the shortage. But in terms of tracking numbers, I don't know that that's something that's really done or able to be done.
Thank you. So if there are no further questions, I would like to again thank Dr. Kimura and Mrs. King for presenting today And before you go, please remember to mark your calendars for our final program on Wednesday, May 18th, where we will welcome Kevin Swab, the new director of the Cayuga County Veterans Services Agency, to share with us information on their programs, community outreach, and involvement. Thank you.